I'm here at San Diego Comic-Con with my friend, comic writer, comic artist Dave Baker.
We're talking about comics outside of the San Diego Convention Center. There's a bunch of X-Men cosplayers over there.
Yeah.
You know?
I tend to do a lot of focus on a few things: comics, music, and politics. And I really like to try to find the intersection between them all. So really what I want to talk to you about is, first I'll just start with, what do you think about, is there a place for politics in comics?
Everything is political.
So that was going to be kind of the next question. There are some people who say art, media, whatever is inherently political. And there are some people who push back against that. And I kind of understand the want to push back against that.
Yeah.
But I also think that definitions of what is political is very broad oftentimes. Mm-hmm. And so when somebody says everything is political, what does that mean to you?
That we're all formed in our socioeconomic and racial and gender identities, and that trying to extricate ourselves from those paradigms is a foolhardy errand, and making stories reflecting those identities and social economic paradigms and gender expressions is the point of making art.
Okay. That was a really great answer. Hell yeah, the juggernaut's behind us.
Fucking Kane Marco, baby. Kane Marco, baby. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, dude.
There we go.
Yeah, dude. I'm into it.
Okay, so, yeah, I mean, that's very, very concise and to the point answer, which is great. And I think then I want to turn that conversation to why comics specifically? Like, why do you think that comic books, whether we're talking superheroes, you know, any other genre, what have you, what makes them specifically so rife for like political commentary?
I think there's a few things. I think one, the medium is founded by largely Jewish people and immigrants and people of color. I think also, and obviously they were making work about their experience in the American melting pot, whether that be literally or the experience of wanting for a compatriot that was not of their expression to protect all of us. Like Superman is inherently a Jewish character, even though he is expressly not a Jewish character, because it's a what if, what if we treated people with empathy? What if we had a dominant socioeconomic class that was waspy, that actually like cared about the rest of us, and
Sure.
wouldn't that be amazing?
And the time period that he was created in too.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, that's incredibly relevant.
Absolutely.
I don't think that you can. I don't think you can separate Superman from, like, I mean, it's pre-World War II, but like the machinations of World War II are happening in
absolutely.
Germany.
Yeah.
And you know, the Jewish immigrants are fleeing Germany and
Totally.
Austria and Poland.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I think
there's that, and then there's also the fact that the medium does not require many yes men. Like, it's a medium that you can do pretty much by yourself, or at the very least with a small team of people.
Okay.
It's fairly cheap, which means you can make more risky or socio-insurgent points, or smuggle perspectives into more kind of bland areas. Like, oh, Captain America is a very political character. His first appearance, he's punching Hitler.
Yeah.
But also over time, they've kind of watered that down and then turned it back up and then watered it back down, and you can do that because it doesn't cost you $200 million to tell a Captain America story.
Sure.
You can tell one, but it doesn't need it.
Yeah, and you know, there are some disadvantages to that because it takes longer to tell a comic book story, like a full story arc. Several months,
Totally.
at most.
Yeah.
So I mean that it's kind of difficult to always have your finger on the pulse, but that's a pretty good segue to a lot of the very prominent creators, and what's happening in mainstream comics right now is very inherently like political of the moment. So, I mean, like, why? What's happening that is fueling this? Is it expression? Is it anger? Not like what's happening in the world.
I was gonna be
It's
like,
more
Drew,
so
what are you talking about?
Not what's
They're
happening.
They're coming for us. What are you talking about?
For sure. Not what's happening in the world, but like what's happening in the artist. Is it seeking catharsis? Is it an expression of anger? Is it rallying the audience? Is it a combination
I think
of
it's
those?
a combination of all those things, and I think that that's one of the best things about the comics medium is that you get a more pure representation of all of that kaleidoscopic vision of what people are fearful of or rebelling against or trying to emphasize in our culture. And whether that be through the big two superhero machine or indie comics or self-published stuff, webtoon, like there's so many different ways of approaching it that to me, that's what's really exciting. Like I feel like the comics medium is better right now than it ever has been. The business is a little rough, but the actual people within the medium making things are more exciting and more intriguing to me as a reader than it's been in quite a while.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Like I
thought you were about to say I don't agree. I think it's pretty bad.
I think it's a really exciting time to be a comic book writer. So then let's talk about more your experience then. As like you're a writer, you're an artist, you've written for other people, you've drawn for other people, you've drawn and written your own stuff, like be as the writer artist. Do you think that comics as a medium, and we're talking like more mainstream, the business side of things, do you think it's a little bit more free to be like expressly political than maybe like film or television?
I think in some ways yes, and in other ways no. I think in some ways there's the potential for that because right now is a fairly while the speculator boom and the rise of things like the Ultimate and Absolute Universe in the mainstream sphere have made things really financially lucrative.
Sure.
They also are lucrative in a specific subset of readers that aren't usually even reading the books. They're just like collecting them and flipping them. It's kind of like the 90s again, right? And they want that bombast, the big spectacle, the giant muscles, the things exploding. Whereas, like there's that Fantagraphics book that got nominated for an Eisner, Raging Clouds by Yudori. I think that's like one of the best graphic novels I've read in the past decade. It's fantastic. And I don't really see people talking about it as much. And it's an interesting book. It's got an interesting hook. And I feel like that type of work could so easily take off in that way and have like a bookstore market readership develop around it. And it takes real risks. Yeah. But I don't know. It feels like there's like a pipeline from like the collectors to the speculators to the CGC thing, and then once you hit a certain number of these things, it feeds back around and you get actual readers. And without that like commercial pipeline, some of the other stuff kind of gets lost a little bit, and then it can be hard for publishers to justify taking risks to be expressly political without some sort of like it's a gorilla with a cybernetic arm or whatever.
Yeah. And so I mean sometimes there are some writers who are very overtly like, no, this is about like class warfare, right? Yeah, sure. In their writing, not them themselves, but like in the writing, the story has that message to it. And there are other other storytellers who kind of hide it beneath the surface so that it's there, but like it's there if you know where to look. Yeah. Where do you think that you stand in that as a creator? Are you?
I don't know. I think that's a good question. I think in some of the books it's pretty overt. Yeah. It's pretty overt. Like, my book Night Hunters with Alexis Zird is about two brothers who live in a post-dystopian Venezuela where if you want to have a baby in a hospital, you have to become a police officer. Yeah. And one of the brothers ends up choosing to be a cop and the other one doesn't. And it follows their lives and how those decisions impact things. And like, I don't think that's particularly subtle. Sure. It's not particularly subtle.
I think this is going on TikTok. I think most people on TikTok probably know your book Halloween Boy. Yeah. Which when you first told me about Halloween Boy, and like sometimes when you're kind of pitching it in your videos, you kind of, I don't think that you really get into.
I purposefully pitch when I'm doing the like high, 30-second logline or whatever. Yeah. I purposefully pitch, it's a action adventure horror comic about a guy who's cursed to believe that he's the patron saint of the impossible. So each issue is a one and done action adventure story where he's trying to help somebody out of a no-win scenario. And like that
down
doesn't,
to a T.
That doesn't really encompass the whole book, but it gives a certain type of person enough to be like, oh yeah, okay, so it's kind of like Doc Savage or you know, the Phantom or Hellboy, and that there's going to be all these adventures, and then they're going to build to a bigger story. But yeah, to me, it's about kind of grappling with institutionalized failures and the myths that we tell ourselves about the reasons we do the things we do. Because I love superhero comics and I love pulp adventure, but a lot of that stuff is very racist and founded in tropes of othering people and demeaning people. And I think that in order to really reclaim the myth of the modern superhero and move forward, you have to acknowledge those things and like rebuild the characters back up, which is expressly to me what Halloween Boy is. He's like tear it down to not deconstruct but rebuild.
There is in Halloween Boy, there is like a thread of decolonization.
Totally.
Not just decolonization, but like addressing the horrors of colonization. And even in some ways, like your main character is like has been a perpetrator of that. So,
both knowingly and unknowingly.
And which I think I think that's a really great way. One of the things that I've really liked about Halloween Boy is sometimes he knows it and sometimes he doesn't, because I think that really speaks to how, like, the kind of the dominant socioeconomic class, once you get kind of far, like a person like me, right? I am not in any position of like institutional power. I'm not in government or anything like that, but like I obviously benefit from the past horrors that have happened.
Same.
Like, you know, like
100% same.
And so there are times where I don't realize that maybe something that I have comes from that, or that a specific action that I'm doing is related to that. And there's just like, because our institutions
they reward a certain type of person unknowingly.
And
sometimes very knowingly.
And they don't teach us how to look out for that stuff. Which I think often is, to bring it back to comics and media, I think that's often one of the reasons why we like, sometimes just as people love different art forms, because it allows us to learn the things that we've never been taught.
I think also specifically for Halloween Boy, like one of the things I love about pulp adventure and pulp characters is the globe-trotting, going and seeing things that are, you know, foreign to a lived experience of, let's be real, an American in the 30s. Like that's the audience for a lot of those stories. And I wanted to try and do those tropes because I love those tropes, but I wanted to recontextualize them and play with them in a way where it's like, oh, this guy, he is trying to be better. And so every one of these lost cause scenarios, like, he's going to just lose, but he's also hopefully going to grow and change and help people out, and maybe he wins, but even when he wins, he loses. And like, I don't know, I just have a soft spot for losers, I guess.
I get it. I understand.
And there's a giant Frankenstein head with 4 arms and legs that shoots lasers out of his mouth. So, you know, it's not all that heady. You know, sometimes he's got a giant flaming sword with the soul of a demon in it, and he's just like massacring giant spiders and shit, you know.
Hell yeah. Like, that's awesome. And like, that's what's great about comics is that you can combine politics and this just really fun stuff. And it doesn't feel disjointed at all if like you're a good enough
hopefully
creator. And you know, like, not to toot your horn, but I think you're a good enough creator.
Thank you. That's nice.
Let's talk about the more subtle ways that you kind of include socio-political themes. You and
Nicole Gu.
Yeah, your partner Nicole Gu, Eisner winner.
Nicole
Gu.
Winner, baby.
We were at the ceremony last night. Dave just kept talking about how much he was crying watching her win.
Dude, it was stupid. I don't want to do that anymore. Can I just stop crying, Drew, please?
Never. You stop crying, you stop feeling, and if you stop feeling, you stop making good art.
Okay, sounds good. I won't stop then.
So you and Nicole have done Fuck Off Squad together, which is a book I absolutely loved. I will never stop praising that book. You've got Pumpkinheads together. You've got
Forest Hills Bootleg Society.
Forest Hills Bootleg Society. Everything is Tulip.
Yep.
A lot of times with those books, your characters are queer. Your characters are broke. They're not privileged people in every sense of the word.
Sure.
So, I mean, how do you? What draws you to characters like that? I guess I should ask first.
Because that's usually me and all my friends. You know what I
mean?
So
you're just making yourself, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, every character is an amalgam of my experiences, Nicole's experiences, people I know, and I just, you know, like, one of my favorite books ever is Wet Moon by Sophie Campbell.
Okay.
I love those books, man. And, you know, when I was first really getting into indie comics, those were some of the first books I read where I was like, if I can make something that's like half as good as this, I think I'll be all right.
Okay.
And that's kind of the goal. It's like I'm always chasing Wet Moon and like This One Summer by Mariko and Jillian Tamaki. Yeah,
I haven't read that yet,
dude,
and I
so
need
good.
to.
I will say, it's a different experience when you read it after all the hype, because you're like, it's a very small story.
That's what I love. I love that stuff.
I love it too, but I feel like people have gone back and revisited some of their earlier works, like Skim, which I think is a masterpiece, and been like, nothing much happens. And I'm like, yeah, I know. That's the point. Nothing much happens. I love it.
I'm such a fan of that. I wrote, not to get too far off topic, the other morning I woke up and just wrote a story about a person sitting down to eat breakfast and realizing that he's the only person in the room who's not in a couple.
Love it.
And like, that's like,
yeah.
It's those, those feelings. And I think that like, God, comics are so, because of the visual nature of comics, there's so much versatility that you can do. And then, I mean, there is, again, everything is political. So how do we work a very subtle political message into that? And do you even work it in, or is it just there?
I think it's a little bit of both, right? But I think there's also, like, there's a weird thing that is happening right now with the way media is consumed, which is that, yes, everything is political, but also the author isn't always the characters are often on the wrong side of things, but that doesn't mean the author is on the wrong side of things.
For sure, yeah.
And that's a weird parallel that I've been seeing in a lot of discourse recently, where it's like, this writer made this character do something that was bad, therefore they're bad. And it's like, what was the context of the story? Is the story saying that thing was good? Like, I don't think Martin Scorsese's out here being like, capitalism is great.
Yeah.
Like, all of his movies are like, capitalism bad.
Yeah.
And it's up for debate of whether satire even works in the world anymore in the way that, things have transpired.
Who was it? Comedian? There was a comedian who said Donald Trump is the end of satire.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And I cannot remember who it was. It was on a talk show.
Yeah.
And he said, like, you can, maybe it was Mark Maron.
Oh, yeah.
It was Comic-Con guest, Mark Maron. Yeah, he said Trump is the end of satire. We can't make fun of the world anymore because the world is too stupid to make fun of. That was essentially what I interpret that to mean.
And then there's people that are like the Large Hadron Collider that went off in 2012, popped us into an alternate universe. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? I don't usually believe these things, but like, maybe. I don't know, man.
It's not outside the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I don't know. Shit's so weird. Who knows?
So, you earlier said something about, the do-it-yourself nature of comics, which brings me to, you and I both come from like the punk rock scene. And I've seen that energy in your books, not just in like the presentation of the characters, but literally in the I'm going to do this and who's going to stop me kind of like publishing nature of your books, which I think that like there's such an overlap between comics and like DIY punk ethos because of that exact idea.
Yeah.
What came first for you? Was it comics or was it punk?
It was comics.
Yeah.
I found comics when I was about like 4 or 5.
Oh wow.
I was really into the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew as a little kid, and my mom took me to the library in Pima County in Arizona, and they had a whole bunch of Tintin comics there, and the librarian was like, has he ever seen Tintin? And I just lost my mind, and I basically have been obsessed with comics since then, which is interesting because I feel like Tintin is simultaneously made by somebody who's on some parts of the wrong side of World War II, but also like the metaphor of Tintin is the same as Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys, which is that adults are lying to you.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, that's something that I relate to. And
I mean, that message right there is also inherently kind of political, because you can, I mean, if you might have to use some steps to get there, but like parents, when you're a child, parents are authority, and authority,
yes.
If parents are lying to you, then what does that say about like authority as a whole?
100%.
And yeah, that's so inherent in our media as kids. Like, I mean, Scooby-Doo. Yeah. Every single Scooby-Doo story is about how some rich
land baron, like, or whatever,
rich capitalist is using people's inherent fears to screw them out of money. Or, you know, and then it's like at the end they unmask him and they're just like, oh, it was this guy the whole time. You know, and the scheme unfurls.
Yeah, totally. I think there's a core irony in that too, which I think links back to the Stratemeyer Syndicate, where, like, you know, Nancy Drew was, quote, created by a woman named Carolyn Keene, and the Hardy Boys were created by, quote, Franklin W. Dixon, but neither of those people are real.
Yeah.
And like Leslie McFarland is the guy who wrote most of the early Hardy Boy books that everybody loves. Yeah. And he and a couple of the other writers sued the Stratemeyer Syndicate. Edward Stratemeyer was like a literary agent and guy who packaged books for pulp booksellers in like the 30s and 40s. And then in the 50s, he was like, I think we could just do this ourselves. So he invented a fake author name, hired a bunch of his ghostwriters to work under that name collaboratively. And that's why there's like 500 Hardy Boy books and Nancy Drew books. And I think it's so fascinating that the people who were like, hey, children, the adults are lying to you, were doing that maybe because they were the ones lying. Like they were building the Matrix and then being like, it's a simulacra, which is really deeply interesting to me.
Interesting. Okay. All right. It's
so interesting that you would have enough empathy for the reader to be like, it's important that you don't trust anyone, including me. And I like that idea.
I like that too. I always tell my students when, like, I am not shy about this, and they take it as a joke, but there's a seriousness to it. Like, just because I'm your teacher never means that I'm right. Mm-hmm. You are allowed to call me out. You are allowed to tell me that I did something wrong. Not just like, you know, like, oh, I did something, like I got the wrong answer or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, but like, if I treat somebody a way that I shouldn't treat them, I promise I'm not doing it out of malice. It's probably just some mistake that I've made. So like, you can, I want them to not always trust me. I want them to look things up for themselves. Don't just take my word for it. And I lie to them a lot so that they will do that. That's like little things I will lie to them about so that I can see them look it up. Not counting the time I accidentally told Grace that shoot, what's his name? Superman director.
James Gunn?
The old
Bryan
one.
Singer.
78.
Richard Donner.
Richard Donner. Not counting the time I told Grace that Richard Donner directed Gremlins, and she said, no, that's Joe Dante, and I said, no, you're wrong, and then she immediately looked it up. That was an actual, I just made a mistake. It was not me doing a lie. And she...
You know, he almost directed a Johnny Quest movie, Donner. In like '86, he almost...
Like a live action?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
They were going to do a thing called the Summer of Quest, and it was that show, like the Adventures of Johnny Quest, the like bad one that's in the middle of Real Adventures and the Johnny Quest. The reason that show got made is because they were going to make a Richard Donner live action.
Interesting.
And I would...
Did you...
I would have loved to have seen that movie.
Is that something that you just kind of knew, or did you learn about that while you were kind of researching Mary Tyler Moorehawk?
I think I might have found that during Moorehawk, I think.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Mary Tyler Moorehawk, if you haven't read it, I tell everybody to read it all the time. has a very Johnny Quest feel to it.
Totally.
I think that it was, how did I describe it? It was like Johnny Quest meets, shoot, I can't remember now.
I usually say it's Johnny Quest meets Infinite Jest, and somebody either rolls their eyes and goes, I don't know about this guy, or they go, ooh, what does that mean?
Okay, all right. Yeah, and I mean, to bring it back, Mary Tyler Moorehawk has this very dystopian, like, the government is taking things away from you.
Yeah, the government bans physical objects, and it causes collectors to go underground, and most of human culture to be obliterated because nobody remembers what came before after like 2 generations.
And they do it in the name of reducing pollution, correct?
Yeah.
And which is like, it sounds good and it sounds noble, but like there is a negative effect that is often bigger than like what is intended and what is like the foresight, you know?
Yeah, totally.
What's like right there in front of their eyes, which I think is often how a lot of, I mean, think of every cry of "Think of the Children."
Yeah,
that was in. I mean, that's in comics, right?
And Joe Lieberman out here being like, we
Joe
gotta
Lieberman,
we gotta be hard on TV.
The PMRC, right?
Yeah.
You know, and like when people hear about that stuff, I mean, the PMRC, Joe Lieberman, they probably think they're like
Mothers Against Metal or whatever. Yeah.
They probably think that these are like Republicans trying to censor media. They were Democrats.
Yeah.
Like Joe Lieberman was
He's like an independent, right?
Well, he ran on a Democratic ticket with Al Gore.
Yeah, I know, right?
In 2000.
Yeah.
And Tipper Gore, Al Gore's wife, was the head of the PMRC.
Yeah, boo.
Trying to like.
Never trust somebody with the name Tipper though. Like that should have been a dead giveaway.
And then, but like even before that, with comics, Frederick Wertham, you know, with the Seduction of the Innocent.
Yeah, the HUAC trials. Yeah.
Yeah, that is all with the goal of protecting children. But like, think about where we would be where comics would be as an industry if we never had to limit them. Think about where film would be if we never had the Hays Code.
And I think there is a weird push and pull there because the Hays Code,
it taught people to be more creative.
Totally. But also I just think there is something to be said about like, I don't know that it's good that like a 9-year-old can get on TikTok and like fry their brain
I agree.
using the algorithm.
I 100% agree.
I don't think that's great.
Yeah.
And I think the EC comics in the 1950s were the equivalent of that. I don't know that it's great for a 6-year-old to look at Johnny Craig's artwork. That being said, I think it's great and I love it and I think it's really cool but I don't know how to square that circle. You know what I mean?
I'm the same way. When I was in first grade, my favorite movie was Terminator 2. Which is like, I mean, it's not the most violent movie.
No, but it's a very violent movie.
But it's certainly too violent for a 6-year-old.
100%.
And
it's so strange how our culture is like, murder? Okay, we'll let people see that. Sex?
Nudity?
No, no.
And that's like, man, it's just, we're coming down to the time limit, but like there's so much more that I would want to say about comics, which is like I love stuff, just to go down the rabbit hole of like, I love that comics are allowed to be like deeply grotesque and often horror like focused, but they're also like I think that erotica comics like can be some of the greatest art form just because it like creates a feeling in a person, and that's really what storytelling is all about.
Totally.
Before we get out of here, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Give me 3. One comic, one movie, one album that radicalized you. Let's put it that way.
Oh boy, radicalized me?
That really shaped your politics.
Okay, for comics, it's hard because a lot of the people who have contributed to those things have been outed as not so great people.
I get it.
It's really rough. Okay, for comics, I will say Channel Zero by Brian Wood, published by AIT Planet Lar.
Okay.
That comic was one of the first expressly and overtly political comics that I read where I was like, oh my gosh, you can do this?
Yeah.
It's got a keen sense of graphic design, he's got a cool visual style, and also it is about Clear Channel, and I mean, obviously politics has moved on since the early 2000s, but...
Has it?
I know, right? But it's about Clear Channel and, mass censorship and restriction of media, and I just really... Channel Zero... by Brian Wood.
Okay.
I loved it. Also, maybe Teenagers from Mars, the graphic novel by Rob G. and Rick Spears, which is about two kids in a small conservative town where comics get outlawed, and they end up taking up arms as a resistance for their right to create artwork.
Okay.
It's like Taxi Driver meets Bonnie and Clyde, but about comics.
Jeez.
Like it's awesome. I loved it. It was one of the first like self-published comics that I really got into, and was just like, I want to do this exact thing.
Okay.
For a movie, this is actually less overtly political, but more just like in the spirit of somebody who makes things.
Love that.
Shane Carruth's Primer was like a huge revelation to me.
Yeah, it has that feeling of nobody's gonna stop me. I'm just gonna make it,
Totally.
and like quality be damned. And it turned out
it's
really
good. It's really good. I mean, it's a time travel movie made by an aerospace engineer, and he produced it on film for $7,000 in 2006, I think.
Yeah.
And the movie is. It's still like kind of the seminal text of if time travel were to work, this is how it would actually work.
Yeah.
Not the way that, it just kind of, there's time travel. Don't think about it in a lot of film. So I would say Shane Carruth's Primer is definitely one of those big like, oh, it's nesting dolls within nesting dolls, and there's like really dense, and like the texture of the idea is you have to look at the idea 3 times to be able to get it. Like that to me.
And you have to watch the movie 3 times to get it.
Yeah, it's really, it demands a lot of the audience in a way that very few movies do.
And it does one of the things that I love with art, that I always tell my, particularly my like high-level AP students, to like a way to train yourself to consume art is try to find the way that the art itself is reflective of the form that it takes.
Yes.
Which I think the comics are great for doing. I think movies are great for doing. Novels, I think, are fantastic at that.
Yeah.
And they all do them in different ways.
Totally.
And then one album.
Oh man, this is the hardest one though. I mean, of course, there's like Minor Threat and like things that have like influenced me a lot as a person. But I think in the moment right now, I'm gonna say something that's maybe not punk. I'm gonna say Strange Ways Here We Come by the Smiths.
Okay.
Terrible person. Morrissey, very disappointed. Very, very disappointed in that guy. But the thing I love about that record that really kind of crystallized how I make things is that the story about the record where like they made it and then Johnny Marr and Morrissey had this massive falling out and maybe they were lovers, or rather one-sided. Maybe Morrissey was in love with Johnny Marr and that was the reason it fell apart, or maybe it was business stuff, or maybe it's the fact that they were all like 21. But then because they didn't tour on the record, it is now like the redheaded stepchild of their oeuvre, where a lot of people are like, "No, Strange Ways isn't very good." To me, Strange Ways is a great record. Yeah. I really like it. I like how weird it gets in places. I like that it's experimental. I like A Russian to Push and the Land Is Ours is a great song. Like, I know that some of their other songs on the other records are more like How Soon Is Now and whatever are like the seminal songs. But to me, Strange Ways is the one where you can see that they're like, it's a link to something that never got made. Like Strange Ways is like a half step in a direction where they were going to then figure out what the new version of the Smiths was in whatever their next record was going to be. And because that never happened, it's this like weird hanging Chad tragedy that didn't get solidified in the minds of the fans because they didn't tour on it. And like that is so deeply compelling to me that it makes me revisit that record way more than the other records. And I feel like my goal as an artist is to make, hopefully not something that has a story that is that sad, but like to make something that feels like that record where you kind of, it's not quite satisfying in the way that you want it to be, so you revisit it over and over again, and then that is the satisfaction. Yeah,
I get that. I like that. That's Primer, but for music.
Totally.
There.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
Dave Baker, it's great talking with you.
Thanks, Drew.
I will see you when I see you. Go buy his books. Go buy Nicole Goo's books. Stay safe, and don't let them get you down.